42 gigabytes. That was the number that ended my life as I knew it. It wasn't a bullet. It wasn't a car crash. It was a number on a Verizon bill I wasn't even supposed to see. We live in San Francisco, in a townhouse in Noe Valley. It's the kind of life you see in magazines. I'm Mark. I work in systems architecture for a major cloud computing firm. My wife Sarah works in high-end real estate PR. We have 2 kids, a dog, and a mortgage that costs more than my parents' entire house back in Ohio. To the outside world, we are the golden couple. We survived the tech crash, we survived the pandemic, and we survived what I call the dark year. 3 years ago, Sarah had an emotional affair. She called it a friendship that got out of hand. I found thousands of texts, late-night calls, pictures that bordered on inappropriate but never quite crossed the line into nudity. Just intimacy. Intimacy that belonged to me. It broke me. I spent nights staring at the ceiling, wondering if I was enough. But she cried, she begged, she swore on her children's lives that it never got physical. She deleted the apps, she gave me her passwords. We went to therapy. I rebuilt my trust brick by painful brick. I thought we were safe. I thought the transparency was real. But transparency is just a window, and windows can be tinted. It started on a Tuesday. I was working from home, staring out at the fog rolling over Twin Peaks, trying to debug a server migration issue. The internet at the house blinked out, just a flicker, enough to annoy me. I logged into our provider account to check the status, and that's when I saw the data usage warning. We have an unlimited plan, but they throttle you after a certain point. The alert wasn't for my phone, it was for Sarah's. I clicked the details. 42 gigabytes of hotspot data used in the last 10 days. My stomach dropped. It felt like I was in a free-fall elevator. Hotspot data is specific. It means you are bypassing the local Wi-Fi. It means you are creating a tunnel. Sarah has Wi-Fi at her office, a dedicated fiber line that is faster than anything we have at home. She has Wi-Fi on the shuttle bus she takes to the financial district. Why would she need to tether her laptop to her phone for hours at a time, burning through cellular data? I sat there, and the code on my screen blurred. My heart started hammering against my ribs, a frantic rhythm of panic. I told myself to breathe. I told myself not to be the jealous, crazy husband. There had to be a logical explanation. Maybe the office internet was down. Maybe she was working from a park. I checked the timestamps. Yesterday, 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. 2 hours of continuous high bandwidth streaming or uploading. I picked up my phone and scrolled back through our texts from yesterday. 1:15 p.m. Me. Hey babe, how's the day going? 1:45 p.m. Sarah. Insane. Back-to-back meetings. Can't talk. Love you. Back-to-back meetings. If you are in a meeting in a conference room in a high-rise in downtown San Francisco, you are on the corporate Wi-Fi. You don't turn on your personal hotspot unless you are trying to hide your traffic from the company admin, or unless you aren't at the office at all. I felt the old sickness return, the bile in my throat, the cold sweat on my palms. I didn't confront her that night. I needed to be sure. I needed to be a ghost. When she came home, she looked perfect. Her coat was crisp. Her hair was smooth. She smelled like the city, rain and expensive perfume. She kissed me, and I felt like Judas, or maybe she was Judas. How was work? I asked, casually stirring the pasta sauce. Exhausting, she sighed, pouring herself a glass of Pinot Noir. The Wi-Fi was acting up all day. I had to tether my laptop just to get the presentation out. She said it so easily, so smoothly. It was the perfect lie because it addressed the evidence before I even presented it. It was a preemptive strike. If I asked about the data, she would say, "See, I told you the internet was bad." But I know technology. That's my job. I know that if the internet is down in a major PR firm for 2 hours, IT is running around like headless chickens, and everyone goes to Starbucks. You don't burn 5 gigs of data sitting at your desk in silence. That sucks, I said, keeping my voice steady. Did you get it fixed? Yeah, eventually, just a headache. She smiled and touched my arm. You look tense, honey. Rough day? The audacity. She was comforting me while lying to my face. That night, while she showered, I did something I promised I would never do again. I picked up her phone. I didn't need the passcode to check the battery usage. I went into settings. Top battery usage, FaceTime. Not Zoom, not Teams, FaceTime. You don't use FaceTime for corporate meetings. You use it to talk to your mother or your husband or someone else. And the data usage for FaceTime matched the hotspot spikes perfectly. But here was the kicker. Her laptop wasn't the device draining the data. The hotspot was connected to a device named iPad. We have an iPad. It's in the living room. It's used for Netflix and games for the kids. I walked out to the living room and checked it. It was dead. Battery, 0. It hadn't been turned on in days. She had a second device. I put her phone back exactly where it was. I sat on the edge of the bed and felt the room spinning. She wasn't just cheating, she was running a parallel operation. She had a burner device and she was using her main phone to power it, so the burner wouldn't show up on any network logs. She was smart, terrifyingly smart. But she forgot that I build systems for a living, and I know how to dismantle them. The next morning, I called in sick. I put on a hoodie and a baseball cap. I swapped my Tesla for my old beat-up mountain bike. I waited down the street near the coffee shop where she grabs her morning latte before catching the company shuttle. She walked out of the house at 7:45 a.m. She looked beautiful. A beige trench coat, black heels. She walked with confidence. She didn't look like a woman carrying a secret. She looked like a woman who owned the world. She didn't go to the shuttle stop. She walked 2 blocks east to Mission Street. A black SUV pulled up. Not an Uber, no stickers, tinted windows. She opened the back door and slid inside. I pedaled hard. My lungs burned. The hills in San Francisco are unforgiving, but adrenaline is a hell of a drug. I followed the car. They didn't go to the financial district. They merged onto the highway heading south towards SFO Airport. I couldn't follow on a bike. I watched the taillights disappear into the morning traffic, and I felt a scream building in my chest that I couldn't let out. I pulled out my phone. I opened the Find Me app. We share locations. It's part of the safety agreement we made after the last time. Her dot was moving, but it wasn't on the highway. Her dot was showing that she was at the shuttle stop waiting for her bus. She had left her phone behind, or... No, I zoomed in. The dot was stationary. It wasn't moving with the bus. It was in a trash can near the bus stop? No. I rode back to the shuttle stop. There was a homeless man sitting on the bench holding a coffee cup, a familiar coffee cup, Sarah's reusable mug. I approached him slowly. "Excuse me," I said. "Did a woman give you that cup?" The man looked up, eyes glazed. "Nice lady, said she didn't need it, gave me $20 too. Did she give you anything else?" "Just told me to sit here for a bit, said she'd be back." He reached into his pocket and pulled out an iPhone, Sarah's iPhone. My blood ran cold. She had paid a homeless man to hold her phone at the bus stop so her location would look normal to me while she disappeared in a black SUV. This wasn't an affair. This was a covert operation. I took the phone from the man. "I'm her husband," I said, handing him a $100 bill. "Keep the money. I'll take this." He didn't argue. I held her phone in my hand. It was warm. I unlocked it. She had disabled the passcode for the day. Why? So the homeless guy could keep it active? No. So she could wipe it remotely if she needed to. I stood there on the corner of Mission and 24th, surrounded by the noise of the city, the clatter of the streetcars, the shouting of vendors, and I felt completely alone. She was gone. I had no way to track her. She had a burner iPad, and she was in a car with someone else. But I remembered the hotspot. The hotspot data, 42 gigabytes. If she was using the hotspot yesterday, she was connecting to something, and devices leave digital fingerprints. I rushed back home. I fired up my workstation. I have a packet sniffer installed on our home network, a remnant of my paranoia from 2 years ago. It logs every device that tries to connect, even if it fails. I searched the logs for yesterday morning before she left. There it was, a MAC address that didn't belong to us. It had tried to ping our router for a split second before switching to her hotspot. Device name? Sarah's Secret Garden. The arrogance. She named it. I ran a trace on the MAC address. It was an iPad Pro cellular model, registered not to Sarah, but to an LLC, Vantage Point Holdings. I Googled the LLC. It was a shell company, no website, no employees, just a registered agent address in Delaware. But then I searched the LLC in the San Francisco property tax database. They owned one property, a penthouse apartment in the Millennium Tower, the sinking building, the most notorious address in the city. I looked at the clock. It was 9 a.m. I had her phone. She thought her tracks were covered. She thought I was at work looking at spreadsheets. She thought she was smarter than me. I grabbed my keys. I didn't take the bike this time. I took the car. Driving into downtown San Francisco is a nightmare, but I drove like a man possessed. I cut off taxis. I ran a yellow light on Market Street. I pulled up across from the Millennium Tower. It's a glass needle piercing the sky, a monument to excess and instability. I sat in the car and waited. I didn't know what I was waiting for. A sign? A miracle? Then I saw it, the black SUV. It was idling in the valet zone. The driver got out. He walked around and opened the back door. Sarah stepped out, but she wasn't wearing the trench coat anymore. She was wearing a red dress, a dress I had never seen. It was backless, daring, completely inappropriate for a Tuesday morning. And she wasn't alone. A man stepped out after her. He was older, silver hair, tailored suit. He looked like money. He looked like power. He put his hand on the small of her back, a gesture so possessive, so familiar, it made me want to vomit. They didn't touch like new lovers. They touched like they had been doing this for years. They walked into the lobby. The doorman nodded at them. He knew them. I gripped the steering wheel so hard the leather creaked. She wasn't just cheating on me. She was living a double life. A rich boyfriend, a secret apartment, a burner device, and I was the fool paying the mortgage in Noe Valley, watching the kids while she played dress-up in a sinking tower. My phone buzzed. Well, her phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out. A text message, but not a normal text. It was a notification from a hidden app she must have re-downloaded. Signal. Encrypted messaging. Message from the architect. Make sure he doesn't suspect anything tonight. I need you focused. The transfer happens at 5. I stared at the screen. The architect? The transfer? This wasn't just sex. I looked back at the building. Sarah and the silver-haired man were gone. I had a choice. I could go home, pack her bags, and wait for the explosion, or I could find out what the transfer was. I looked at the iPad data usage again in my mind. 42 gigabytes. That's not just video calls. That's data. Massive amounts of data. She wasn't just uploading videos. She was moving files. Sarah wasn't just a cheater. She was a leak. I work in cloud security, and I know what corporate espionage looks like. And suddenly the hotspot, the work excuse, the paranoia, it all shifted. Was she cheating on me with a man, or was she cheating on her entire life? I put the car in gear. I wasn't going home. I was going to find out who the architect was, and I was going to burn their entire world down. I dialed her boss, the real one, at the PR firm. "Hi, Mark. Everything okay?" he asked, sounding surprised. "Yeah, just checking in," I said, my voice surprisingly calm. "Sarah mentioned the Wi-Fi was down at the office yesterday, and she had to use her hotspot. Just wanted to see if you guys got that fixed so she doesn't stress tonight." There was a pause, a long silence. "Mark," he said slowly, "our Wi-Fi hasn't been down. And Sarah hasn't been in the office since last Thursday. She called in sick for the week. She said she said you were in the hospital." The world stopped. The noise of the city faded into a high-pitched ring. "Right," I managed to say. "Right. Sorry, confusion on my end. Must be the meds. Thanks." I hung up. She told her boss I was in the hospital. She told me she was at work. She was in a penthouse with a silver-haired man moving 40 gigabytes of data to a shell company. I looked at the Millennium Tower. I wasn't just a betrayed husband anymore. I was the only thing standing between Sarah and whatever hell she was creating. I opened the glove box and took out the spare garage opener for our house. I needed to get back. I needed to get into her physical files before she came home. But as I pulled away from the curb, I saw the black SUV pull out behind me. It didn't turn away. It followed. They knew. The screen of her phone lit up again. Message from the architect. "He has your phone. Abort." They were watching me. I slammed on the gas. I slammed the accelerator and the Tesla lurched forward. Electric torque is silent, but the squeal of tires on pavement screamed through the cabin. The black SUV didn't hesitate. It mirrored my move, swerving into the left lane to cut off the distance. I know San Francisco streets. I know them better than I know the back of my own hand, apparently better than I knew my own wife. I didn't head for the highway. The highway is a trap. It's a straight line, and in a straight line, horsepower wins. I needed chaos. I needed the Mission District. I took a sharp right onto 16th Street, cutting across 2 lanes of traffic. Horns blared. A bike messenger flipped me off. I didn't care. I watched the rearview mirror. The SUV was heavy. It took the turn wide, bouncing off the curb. My heart was a jackhammer against my ribs. This wasn't a marriage dispute anymore. This was a hunt. "Think, Mark, think!" I shouted at myself, gripping the wheel. I needed to disappear. I needed to get off the grid, but I was driving a car that was essentially a tracking device on wheels, and I was holding her phone, which was broadcasting my location to the architect. I took a hard left into a parking garage on Valencia. I didn't park. I drove up to the 4th level, the roof, and then immediately down the exit ramp on the other side. It was an old trick I used to avoid traffic after Giants games. It confused the GPS. It broke the line of sight. I burst out onto the side street and saw the SUV roar past the garage entrance, missing my exit by seconds. I had bought myself maybe 5 minutes. I drove 4 blocks to a crowded area near Dolores Park. I double parked behind a delivery truck. I needed to dump the car. I couldn't go home. If they were following me, they would be waiting at the house. But I needed answers. I looked at Sarah's phone. It was locked again, but I had seen the notification. Abort. I remembered the passcode she used to use. Her birthday? No, she changed that. The kids' birthdays? Tried it, failed. Our anniversary? Tried it, failed. I stared at the screen. 1 attempt left before a lockout. Think like her. Think like the woman who names her secret Wi-Fi network Secret Garden. Think like the woman who pretends to be at work while wearing a backless red dress in a penthouse. Vantage, I whispered, the name of the shell company. Vantage Point. I typed in the numbers corresponding to VANTAGE on the keypad. 826-8242. The phone unlocked. I felt a rush of triumph, followed immediately by a wave of nausea. I was in. I didn't look at photos. I didn't look at Instagram. I went straight to the file manager. I needed to know what 42 gigabytes looked like. There was a folder simply labeled Insurance. I opened it. It wasn't photos of us. It wasn't work documents. It was audio files, hundreds of them, and video clips, and PDFs of bank statements, but they weren't ours. I clicked a random PDF, Credit Suisse, account holder Senator Redacted, balance $12.4 million. I clicked another, a blueprint of a server farm in Nevada, top secret, Department of Defense contractor clearance required. I felt the blood drain from my face. My wife wasn't just having an affair, she was a broker. She was a data broker. She used her position at the PR firm, a firm that handled crisis management for politicians and tech giants, to steal their darkest secrets. The 42 gigabytes wasn't porn.
It was blackmail. She was selling leverage. And the architect, the silver-haired man, he wasn't a lover. He was a buyer or a handler. I scrolled down. At the bottom of the list was a folder named Mark. My hands shook so hard I almost dropped the phone. I tapped it.
Inside were screenshots of my emails, my health records, a life insurance policy I didn't remember signing, a policy worth $5 million with a double indemnity clause for accidental death, and a schedule. Tuesday, meeting at Tower. Wednesday, transfer assets. Friday, the accident. I stopped breathing. The air in the car felt thin like I was at high altitude. Friday. That was in 3 days. The accident. She wasn't planning to leave me. Divorce is messy. Divorce exposes finances. Divorce leads to questions about where she got the money for a penthouse. Widows don't get asked questions. Widows get sympathy. Widows get $5 million. I looked at the date on the life insurance document. It was signed 3 months ago. The signature looked exactly like mine. It was a perfect forgery. I wasn't a husband. I was a loose end. I needed to get to the police. I reached for the door handle. But then I froze. Who is the architect? If she has dirt on senators and defense contractors, who exactly are the police going to answer to? If I walk into a precinct with this phone, do I walk out, or do I become a tragedy in a holding cell? No cops, not yet. I needed leverage of my own. I needed to secure the original data. She had the copy on the phone, but the source, the 42 gigabytes she uploaded, that had to come from somewhere physical. She wouldn't keep it on the cloud where it could be hacked. She would keep a hard drive, a master key. Where? The house. It was risky. It was stupid, but it was the only play I had. I left the Tesla. I threw my keys into a storm drain, let them track a stationary car. I pulled my hood up and walked to the nearest BART station. I took the train 2 stops south, then doubled back on a bus. I spent an hour cleaning my tail, ensuring no black SUVs were behind me. I approached our house from the back alley. It was a gray afternoon, the fog rolling over the hills, turning the world into a muted watercolor. The house looked normal. The tricycle was in the yard. The garden hose was coiled. It looked like the home of a happy family. It looked like a lie. I hopped the back fence, my shoes scraping against the wood. I crept through the garden, dodging the motion sensor light I had installed myself. I disabled it from the control panel on the side of the house. I used my key on the back door. It clicked. Silence. I stepped inside. The house smelled like lemon pledge and fabric softener. It smelled of safety. I went straight to the master bedroom. I ignored the unmade bed where we had slept last night. I went to the walk-in closet. Sarah has a safe, she says. I never had the code. A girl needs her privacy, she used to say playfully. I looked at the keypad. I didn't know the code, but I had her phone. I opened her password manager app, Master Safe. There it was. I punched in the code. The heavy door swung open. No jewelry. Inside was a stack of cash, straps of $100 bills, at least 50 grand. 2 passports, one for her, one for a man I didn't recognize, a younger man, not the silver-haired guy, and a hard drive, a ruggedized military-grade drive. I grabbed the drive. This was it, the Holy Grail. But then I saw something else tucked in the back, a small velvet box. I opened it. It was a ring, not her wedding ring, a new ring, a massive diamond, and a note folded underneath it. To a new life, no baggage, no past. No baggage meant me. No baggage meant... Wait. I frantically searched the safe again. Passports for her, passport for the mystery man. Where were the passports for the kids? We traveled to Mexico last year.
I knew exactly where the kids' passports were supposed to be, in the family document box in the study. I ran to the study. I tore the box open. Gone. The kids' passports were gone. She wasn't leaving them. She was taking them. She was going to kill me, take the money, grab the kids, and vanish into a new life with a new name and a new man. A cold rage settled over me. It replaced the fear. It replaced the heartbreak. It was a clarity sharp as a diamond. She could steal my money. She could steal my trust. She could even plan my death. But she was not taking my children. My phone, my actual phone, buzzed in my pocket. I had forgotten to turn it off. I looked at the screen. Incoming call, Sarah. I stared at it. The house was silent. The fog pressed against the windows. I answered. "Mark?" Her voice was breathless, panicked, the perfect actress. "Oh my God, Mark, are you okay? The office said you called and sounded delusional. They said something about a hospital." I stood in the center of the study, holding the hard drive in one hand and her burner phone in the other. "Drop the act, Sarah," I said. My voice sounded strange, metallic. "I'm not in the hospital. I'm in the safe." Silence. The silence stretched for 5 seconds, 10. Then the breathing on the other end changed. It wasn't panicked anymore. It was steady, cold. "You shouldn't have done that, Mark." Her voice dropped an octave. The sweetness was gone. "You really shouldn't have done that." "Who is he?" I asked. "The architect?" "He's the man who is going to fix the mess you just made," she said. "Listen to me very carefully. You are going to put the drive back, you are going to put the phone back, and you are going to walk out of the house and go to the location I send you. If you do that, maybe we can work something out." "Work something out?" I laughed, a dry, harsh sound. "Like Friday? Like the accident?" She didn't gasp. She didn't deny it. "You were always too smart for your own good, Mark. That's what I loved about you. That's also what's going to get you killed." "Where are the kids, Sarah?" "They're safe. My mother picked them up from school early. You won't find them." "You're not taking them." "I already have," she said. "Now look out the window." I walked to the window, pulling back the curtain just an inch. The black SUV was at the curb, and a second car, a sedan. 2 men were walking up the driveway. They weren't police. They wore tactical vests under their jackets. "You have 2 minutes, Mark. Surrender the drive, or my associates will come in and take it, and they aren't trained to be gentle." I looked at the hard drive. I looked at the encrypted phone. I wasn't a soldier. I was a systems architect. I build firewalls. I design traps. "You forgot one thing, Sarah," I said. "What's that?" "I installed the smart home system. I control the environment." I hung up. I opened the app on my phone. Security protocol lockdown. Steel shutters, security blinds I had installed after the riots 2 years ago, slammed down over every window and door in the house, instantly turning the home into a fortress. I heard the men outside shouting. I heard a heavy thud against the front door. The reinforced wood held. I was trapped inside, but they were trapped outside. I ran to the basement server room. This was my domain. I plugged the military drive into my main server tower. I didn't know the encryption key, but I had her phone, and I had the Signal chat logs. I scrolled frantically through the messages with the architect. "Janus Protocol 88. I typed it in. The drive unlocked. Files flooded the screen. It wasn't just senatorial blackmail. It was bigger. Project Gridlock. I opened the summary file. It was a plan, a cyber attack, scheduled for this weekend. A massive, coordinated shutdown of the West Coast power grid, timed to coincide with a short selling operation that would make Vantage Point Holdings billions of dollars. Sarah wasn't just a thief, she was a terrorist. And the architect? I clicked on his profile dossier included in the drive. Name, Julian Vane, former CIA, current status, rogue. I heard the sound of drilling at the back door. They were coming through the deadbolt. The shutters would hold for maybe 10 minutes. I needed to upload this. I needed to send it to someone who could stop it. The FBI? The NSA? But then the internet cut out. They had cut the line. I checked my cell signal. 0 bars. They had a jammer. I was in a sealed box with the evidence of the century, and I had no way to send it out. And in 5 minutes, 2 men with guns were going to walk in here and kill me. I looked around the server room. My eyes landed on the old ham radio equipment in the corner, my dad's hobby. I had set it up years ago for fun, never thinking I'd use it. Analog. They can jam cellular, they can cut fiber, but they can't stop a radio wave unless they know the frequency. I powered it up. The tubes glowed warm orange. Static hissed through the speaker. I grabbed the microphone. I didn't call the police. I called the one group of people I knew listened to everything. The one group that Sarah and her high-tech friends underestimated because they thought they were obsolete. I tuned to the emergency frequency. Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. This is a priority transmission regarding an imminent domestic terror attack. I have the data. I have the proof. Is anyone out there? Static. Then a voice crackled through, rough, distorted. Station calling Mayday. This is Coast Guard Sector San Francisco. We read you. Go ahead. I looked at the progress bar on the door drill. The lock was giving way. Listen to me, I shouted into the mic. My name is Mark. I am at 422 Hillside Drive. I have evidence of Project Gridlock. They are breaking in now. I am going to broadcast the encryption key over this frequency. You need to record this. Do you copy? We copy. Go. I started reading the code. Alpha, 7, Tango, Zulu. The door upstairs crashed open, heavy boots on the hardwood floor. He's in the basement, a voice shouted. 4, 9, Echo, Sierra. I kept reading, fast, steps thundering down the stairs. I locked the server room door. It was a flimsy interior door. It wouldn't hold. Whiskey, Bravo, 1, 1. The door handle jiggled, then a kick. The wood splintered. I finished the code. End transmission. Send the cavalry. The door exploded inward. 2 men stood there, guns drawn, silencers attached. I raised my hands, stepping away from the radio. The lead man, a brute with a scar across his eye, stepped forward. He saw the radio. He saw the hard drive. He tapped his earpiece. Architect, we have him, but he was broadcasting. He listened for a moment. His face went pale. Understood. He looked at me. He didn't raise his gun to shoot. He holstered it. Grab him, he said to the other man. The plan has changed. We can't kill him here. We need him to undo what he just did. They lunged at me. I fought. I threw a heavy server rack unit at the first guy, knocking him back, but the second one hit me with the butt of his pistol. White light exploded behind my eyes. I fell to the floor, tasting blood. As my vision faded, I saw the scarred man rip the hard drive out of the computer. Bring him, he said. Sarah is waiting. Everything went black. I woke up to the smell of salt water and expensive leather. My head throbbed like a drum. I tried to move my hands, but I couldn't. Zip ties, thick plastic cutting into my wrists. I was tied to a chair. I opened my eyes. The light was bright, too bright. I wasn't in the basement anymore. I was in the sky. Floor-to-ceiling windows wrapped around the room. Outside, the fog was swirling around the skyscrapers. I recognized the view. The Bay Bridge looked like a toy. I was in the penthouse of the Millennium Tower. He's awake. A voice I knew better than my own. I turned my head. Sarah was standing by the window. She held a glass of white wine. She looked calm, bored almost. She wasn't wearing the red dress anymore. She was wearing jeans and a sweater, like she was ready to pick up the kids from soccer practice. "Sarah!" I croaked. My throat was dry. She didn't look at me. She looked at the fog.
You always had to be the hero, Mark. You couldn't just leave it alone. I gave you an out. I was going to let you have the life insurance money. Well, your family, anyway. You were going to kill me, I said. She shrugged, a tiny movement. It was a clean break, better than a divorce, less paperwork. A man walked into my line of sight. The architect, Julian Vane. He looked older up close. His silver hair was perfect, but his eyes were hard, dead eyes. He held a tablet in his hand. He looked at it, then he looked at me. The Coast Guard received a transmission, a string of alphanumeric code. Was that you, Mark? I don't know. Maybe it was a ghost. He stepped closer and slapped me. It wasn't a rage slap. It was a cold, calculated hit to get my attention. My head snapped back. That code, Julian said, unlocks the encryption on our malware. If the authorities have it, they can stop the blackout before it starts. They can patch the grid. Good, I said, spitting blood onto the white rug. Not good, Sarah said, turning around. We have investors, Mark, people who bet billions against the power grid. If the lights stay on, we lose everything. We lose the money. We lose our lives. These aren't people you say sorry to. She walked over to me. She knelt down so her face was level with mine. Her eyes were blue and clear. The eyes I fell in love with 10 years ago. The eyes I saw every morning. Mark, listen to me, she said softly. You can fix this. You know the system. You can send a countersignal, an override. Tell them it was a hoax. Jam the frequency. If you do that, we can still walk away. We can take the kids. We can go to the island. The island? I asked. We bought an island, Mark, in the Caribbean. No extradition, just sun and sand and money. We can be a family again. Just fix the code. I looked at her, really looked at her. For years, I thought she was fragile. I thought she was broken by her emotional affair. I thought I had to protect her. But she wasn't fragile. She was a shark. She didn't want a husband. She wanted an accomplice. Where are the kids, Sarah? I asked. They're on a plane, she said, waiting for us. If you don't fix this, Julian makes a call, and that plane doesn't land. My heart stopped. You're lying, I whispered. You wouldn't hurt them. They're your children. They are leverage, Julian said. Simple assets, like the hard drive. I looked at Julian, then back at Sarah. She didn't flinch. She didn't cry. She just waited for my answer. She was willing to use our children as bargaining chips. That was the moment the last piece of love I had for her died. It didn't fade away. It snapped. Okay, I said. Okay, I'll do it. Sarah smiled. It was a victorious smile. I knew you were smart. Untie him, Julian ordered the guard by the door, the scarred man from my house. The guard cut the zip ties. My hands were numb. I rubbed my wrists. The laptop is over there, Julian pointed to a sleek metal desk. Send the override. Crash the Coast Guard server if you have to. Just make that key useless. I stood up. My legs were shaky. I walked to the desk. I sat down at the computer. It was logged in. I saw the code running. Project Gridlock. It was ready to launch. The countdown said 45 minutes. I looked at the network connection. They were using a satellite link. Fast. Encrypted. I started typing. Faster, Julian said, standing behind me. I could feel the heat of his gun near my head. I have to bypass the firewall first. I lied. I wasn't writing an override code. I was writing a script, a simple loop. I opened the terminal. I typed in a command that would ping every law enforcement server in the state, not with a code, but with a GPS tag. Location, Millennium Tower, penthouse, suspects, armed. And then I did one more thing. I accessed the building's smart system. Just like my house, this building had automation, lights, locks, and fire suppression. Done, I said, pressing enter. The override is sent.
Julian looked at the screen. "Why is the screen flashing red?" "That's the confirmation," I said, standing up. Suddenly, the room turned into chaos. A siren blared, not a police siren, the building's fire alarm. It was deafening. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Then the sprinklers exploded. Water rained down from the ceiling, black, dirty water that had been sitting in the pipes for years. It soaked everything, the white rug, the leather chairs, Sarah's perfect hair. "What did you do?" Sarah screamed, wiping sludge from her eyes. "I cleaned the slate," I shouted. "Kill him!" Julian yelled, raising his gun. But he slipped. The marble floor was instantly slick with water. He fired, but the shot went wild, shattering a window. I didn't run for the door. I ran for Sarah. I tackled her. We hit the wet floor hard. "The kids!" I yelled, shaking her. "Where are they really?" She was clawing at my face, her nails digging into my skin. "Get off me! You ruined everything!" "Where are they?" I screamed. "They're at my mother's house," she screamed. "There is no plane. I just said that to make you work. They're at my mother's house in San Jose." Relief washed over me, so strong I almost passed out. They were safe. Grandma's house. I rolled off her. Julian was back on his feet. He wiped the water from his face. He looked like a drowned rat. He raised the gun again, aiming right at my chest. "Goodbye, Mark." Glass exploded inward. It wasn't the window Julian broke, it was the main balcony doors. A black rope dropped from the roof. 3 figures swung in, smashing through the glass. They wore black gear, helmets, rifles. "FBI, drop the weapon!" The sound was thunderous. Julian turned instinctively. That was his mistake. Pop, pop. 2 shots. Julian Vane dropped to the floor, clutching his shoulder. He screamed a sound of pure shock. The scarred guard tried to run for the elevator but slipped on the wet floor. Before he could get up, a boot was on his neck. "Secure!" a voice shouted. I stayed on the floor, hands on my head. Sarah was sitting in a puddle of black sludge. She looked around wild-eyed. She saw the agents, she saw the guns, and instantly her face changed. She started crying, loud, hysterical sobs. She curled into a ball. "Oh, thank God!" she screamed. "Thank God you're here! He was going to kill us! He had a gun! My husband, he went crazy! He forced us to do this!" She pointed a shaking finger at me. "Help me, please! I'm just a hostage!" I stared at her. Even now, even at the end, she was playing the game. She was trying to frame me to save herself. An agent walked over to me. He was tall with a beard. He kept his rifle trained on me. "Hands behind your back," he said. "She's lying," I said calmly. "Check the tablet, check the hard drive. It's all there." Sarah was wailing now. "He hit me! Look at my face! He hit me!" The agent cuffed me. Then he walked over to Sarah. "Ma'am, are you injured?" he asked. Yes, he hurt me! Take him away!" She reached out to grab the agent's arm. The agent looked at her. Then he looked at his earpiece. "Command to Alpha Team. Yeah, we have the data from the Coast Guard transmission, confirming identity of the architect and Sarah Miller, primary suspect." The agent looked down at Sarah. His face was stone cold. "Sarah Miller?" he asked. "Yes," she sobbed. "Please help me." "Stand up," he said. "What?" "Stand up and put your hands behind your back."
Sarah stopped crying instantly. Her face went blank. "Excuse me? We have your audio logs, ma'am. We have the signal chats. We know you ordered the hit. We know you named the network." He pulled her up roughly. He spun her around and slapped the cuffs on her wrists. The sound of the metal clicking shut was the best sound I had ever heard. "You have the right to remain silent," the agent said. "No!" Sarah screamed. "No, I'm a victim! Mark, tell them! Tell them I was forced!" She looked at me. Her eyes were desperate now, real fear for the first time. "Mark, help me! We have kids! Don't let them take me!" I stood up. The water dripped off my nose. I walked over to her. I looked her in the eye. "You don't have kids, Sarah," I said. "I have kids. You just have a prison sentence." "Mark!" she screamed as they dragged her out. "Mark!" I watched the elevator doors close on her face. The room went quiet. Only the sound of the sprinklers hissing and Julian groaning on the floor remained. The bearded agent looked at me. He uncuffed my hands. "You the guy on the radio?" he asked. "Yeah," I said, rubbing my wrists. "That was me." "Nice work," he said. "Coast Guard got the key. Grid is secure. Power stays on." He handed me a towel from a dry spot on the sofa. "We have a team en route to San Jose to pick up your kids. They'll be in protective custody until we process you, but you're clear. It was self-defense." I took the towel. I wiped my face. I walked to the broken window. The wind was whipping into the room, cold and sharp. The fog was lifting. I could see the city below. The lights were twinkling on. Thousands of lights. Families cooking dinner. Kids watching TV. People living their lives completely unaware of how close they came to the dark. I pulled my phone out of my pocket. It was water, but it was waterproof. I dialed my mom in Ohio. "Mark, is everything okay?" she answered. I took a deep breath, the first real breath I had taken in days. "Yeah, Mom," I said, tears finally stinging my eyes. "Yeah, I'm coming to visit, with the kids, for a long time." "Where's Sarah?" she asked. I looked at the empty room where my wife used to be. "Sarah couldn't make it. She had to go away." I hung up. I walked out of the penthouse Conchess. I didn't look back. I took the elevator down. I walked out the front door of the Millennium Tower. The street was filled with police cars and fire trucks. Blue and red lights flashed against the glass buildings. The air smelled like rain and exhaust. It smelled like freedom. I had lost my wife. I had lost my illusion of a perfect life. But I had the truth, and I had my kids. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't have to worry about how much data I was using, because I had nothing left to hide.